Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 356, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Have you been accidentally added to some interesting Signal channels lately? Signal chats? What a story. No, we're not going to talk about it here. You can see it all over the news, but wild, wild stuff. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of things that have been going on nationally. But today, we're just going to be talking about local news. Before that, I hope you all had a great week, and I hope you have an amazing weekend ahead of you. And of course, you know what to do. Go to holycitycenter.com/calendar to find some plans. Hopefully, we'll have some great weather, all sorts of things going on, though. So even if you don't want to be outside, plenty to do inside as well. And of course, that calendar isn't just for the weekend. It's for every single day. So be sure to check it out and find out what plans you may be making. Not much going on here after my fun weekend in Raleigh, which I talked about. It's been a quiet couple of days, just doing some work. Celebrated my niece's birthday virtually, as of course she's back in Connecticut, but got to talk to her through FaceTime, and it was nice to talk to her and my nephew, her brother, as well. So glad that she had a good birthday and a good time, and that makes me, her uncle, very happy. Always glad when the kiddos are celebrating and doing well, and that's great to see. So special moments for me when, talking to them, and, certainly miss them as far as seeing them in person, but hopefully it won't be too much longer before I'll be able to see them and the rest of my family. But otherwise, that was really the highlight of the last couple days. Been pretty quiet, like I said. So without any further delay, let's get into the latest news. There's a very interesting new incentive program that Charleston County School District announced. It's a pilot program that will pay Charleston County families weekly for perfect attendance. And they're doing this because apparently absenteeism has been pretty tough, according to the school district. It's harmed student performance. And so they're looking to pay students, sort of paying the students, but, their families as well, as you'll hear, just a little bit of money, just a little extra incentive. In case someone was thinking about, I don't really want to go to school today, but they could, one of those, they're not really sick, they just don't feel like going kind of thing. So it's interesting. I've never heard of anything like this before, but here are the details. It's a pilot program, so depending on how it goes, they may implement it permanently. But it would allow the school district to give out $25 a week per student to at least 1,900 students and their families. This program rolled out on March 10th. Now, students within the 10 selected grades and schools, so it's, as you just heard, it's not every single student, it's not every single grade or every single school. As again, just a pilot program. They're just trying to see how it works, and then, would they expand it or not? But in any event, the people who are chosen will be eligible to continuously receive money through a designated debit card, but only if their child achieves perfect attendance every week until May 16th. Some of the schools, or I should say all of the schools that are currently involved, I'm going to list here for you: Ellington Elementary, Midland Park Primary, Lambs Elementary, Ladson Elementary, A.C. Corcoran Elementary, Goodwin Elementary, Morningside Middle, Simmons Pinckney Middle, North Charleston High, and West Ashley High. So if you have a child in one of those schools, they may be eligible. I'm sure you already would have been made aware of this, though, as again, it's not every student. It's just 1,900 total across those schools. So parents or guardians will receive the card unless the student is over 18, and then the student would get it directly. They'll get it from a staff member, and it's limited in where it can be used. So it's not just, however much money they end up getting. It can't be used everywhere. Card holders would only be able to use the cards for things like necessities, gas, transportation, utilities, or food. Those who are eligible sign up for the incentive through an app, which also uses bills.com to track where and how the money is spent. Now, if there are multiple students in one household, each student would be eligible for their own $25, so multiple kids in the school, multiple payments if they have perfect attendance. The incentive would apply to all students within a selected grade or school, regardless of prior history of absenteeism or perfect attendance. The district's chief financial officer, Daniel Prentice, estimated that if every affected student achieves attendance within the perfect attendance, that is, within the selected 9 weeks, the cost would turn out to be about $225 per student. This would extrapolate out to be about $400,000 in total costs. Prentice said that the pilot allocated $30,800 in week 1. The cost of benefits and salaries for the people served sits close to about $600 per student, just to kind of put that in perspective. So again, I haven't heard of this before, but essentially paying students, I mean, they are getting paid, but again, it's limited in scope as to what this money can be spent on. Or the families, if the student's under 18, they'll get the card directly and they can handle it however they want to. But certainly an interesting concept. Like I said, if you're really sick, well, that stinks, of course. You would miss out on that week payment or whatever. But in those situations where for whatever reason the kid could go to school but just ends up not going, whether it's just a family decision or they're fake being sick or whatever, this might be a little extra incentive to be like, hey, well, if I do go, I could get a little extra cash. So interesting. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how this plays out, if it's successful, if they decide to expand it, and certainly some questions about where this money comes from, and is this going to actually help the issue? So we'll see. I'll certainly be keeping an eye on it, and we'll provide any updates as they come along. Some South Carolina lawmakers want to strengthen the state's Heritage Act, which, if you're unfamiliar, basically it just protects Confederate statues. That's the biggest sticking point, because those are the ones that people are usually like, why are we celebrating traitors to our country? But also, it has to do with any kind of war monument. And again, it's usually the Confederate ones that are coming under fire, but it does protect all manner of war-related monuments. And this... we all know we know the real point is about the Confederacy, those are the types of statues and monuments that people want to see removed from public places, etc. It's already a pretty strong act because it requires, if someone wants to remove a statue or monument, it requires basically a supermajority of the South Carolina Senate and House, which, of course, right now there is a supermajority of Republicans, and they are usually the ones who are against removing any statues. So basically, it's an extremely strong piece of legislation already. But there's some lawmakers who want to strengthen it because there are some, loopholes that allowed, like the John C. Calhoun monument, to be removed, and they want to. In addition to that, they also want to prohibit local officials from adding plaques that put controversial statues, in modern context. So remember the whole debate about the Calhoun monument. The people who didn't want it to tear down, they seem to be open with, hey, why don't we just put a plaque here? It'll describe who this person is fully. So with Calhoun, the plaque could mention some of the abhorrent beliefs he had, specifically as it relates to slavery, and his support of it, and how he thought it was a, quote, necessary good. So that was kind of the discussion, was like, hey, we're not going to tear it down, the whole you can't change history crowd, but we'll be open to placing a plaque there that puts it in context. Seemed like a decent enough, even though I still disagree that certain statues or monuments need to remain up. But all right, sure. If we're going to have something, a plaque that describes who this person really was, and maybe even describes why the monument was put up and when it was put up, because you'd be surprised to learn that a lot of Confederate related monuments and things were put up during the civil rights fight during the 60s specifically, and not like right after the Confederate or after the Civil War ended. But now they don't even want that, which is ridiculous, because you can't erase history crowd. This is giving actual history instead of just a statue with a person's name, and you have no idea the context of it. I mean, some people might not, some of course do. This is actually providing real history to this monument, and now they don't even want that. So the legislation was proposed on March 26th. It also requires the state treasurer to withhold funds from any local government which violates the law. It additionally expands the state house's power to control private monuments on public grounds. The reason that they talked about the private monument aspect is because that would have covered the John C. Calhoun monument that was in Marion Square and I just referenced, and it was removed by Charleston City Council in 2020 because it was on private grounds, and also it's not a war-related statue because he didn't fight in any war and wasn't, he wasn't even alive, I don't think, when the Civil War started, if memory serves me correctly. So they're trying to prevent these, what they would probably call loopholes, but the real telling part is that they don't even want plaques, that describe the full picture of this person or whatever the monument is depicting or celebrating. That's the real tell, is that they know that the history is bad. And if you provide the actual history with truth and some background on things, it's going to make the Confederacy look bad. And we can't have that. We got to push the lost cause narrative all these years later, still going strong. Just ridiculous. Supporters were asked, hey, if this bill passes, could it be enforced retroactively? But they did not say. So we'll see if that's something that ends up being put in there. I mean, just so sad and ridiculous. These people who just will do anything to keep these monuments to, noted and well-known racists up and want to celebrate these people. It's just, look, I've talked about it a million times, but this is certainly silly. Unfortunately, with the way that, our current makeup is in the State House, this may go through. Well, one piece of legislation is not going through, at least temporarily. In the last show, I talked about this, the anti-DEI bill. It was expected to pass on Wednesday, but debate was actually stalled, which was a kind of a surprise. It certainly did not see this coming, especially since the stall came from a Republican and not the Democrats. Now, if you didn't listen to the last episode or just need a refresher, this bill would ban government agencies across the state from requiring diversity training or mandating statements of inclusion. So the debate started, and 2 hours in, House Education Chairman Shannon Erickson asked to halt the debate until Tuesday of next week. This is a move that is, as the South Carolina Daily Gazette reported, this is a move that's rarely used by Republicans on the House floor once debate has actually begun. Now, it's normal for the Democrats to do it, especially on a bill that's being pushed by Republicans, and the Democrats tried to do this on Wednesday, but all their various procedural attempts to halt debate failed. But then suddenly the chairwoman of the committee decided to press pause. Definitely surprising. Basically, she told reporters that she just needed a minute. The committee deserves to put forth the best bill we can do, she said. So this bill and the committee that Erickson heads up, they amended it last week, to have the bill ban all state agencies, public schools, and local governments from considering a person's race, gender, or other aspects of their identity in hiring employees or accepting students. It would also ban governments from having offices or divisions dedicated for the promotion of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It also would ban colleges specifically from demanding any political declaration from an applicant or employee. All House Democrats opposed the bill, but again, there is a supermajority for Republicans. This bill will probably pass in some way, shape, or form out of the House, but we will have a little bit of a delay, as I said. So Tuesday will be when things pick back up. Erickson went on to say that she wanted more time to read and consider the approximately 24 amendments that were proposed on Wednesday for changing the bill. So, good for her for putting aside any partisan, politics and being like, well, my people, my team, they want this bill. Let's just pass it. She actually said, wait, we've discussed a lot of amendments. I really want to take my time to look into this. So, hats off to her, because that's how government should work. Now, I'm sure, as I said, because of the supermajority, this bill is going to pass anyway, at least out of the House. So this may just be delaying the inevitable. But maybe she, instead of just passing it because, her party wants to, maybe there are some amendments that she'll change or request changes or requests get removed and, actually putting in the work. So again, this is how it should work. I'm glad to see that. I'm sure it's just delaying the inevitable, but I'm still glad that at least someone is stopping to think about the consequences of legislation and what exactly is being put into bills. So I'll keep you updated what happens on Tuesday. And our last story has to do with the film industry. You probably know, if you've lived here for any amount of time, that there are a lot of television productions that happen in the area, and not just, the reality shows that you are probably most familiar with since they've been around the longest. But there's been a number of movies and television shows, Righteous Gemstones, Outer Banks, two of the biggest ones that have been here. And one of the reasons that Charleston has become a destination for filming is because there's different tax incentives, that are not offered in, say, Los Angeles, or even to an extent in Atlanta. Although Atlanta has a very vibrant filming, and the Marvel's down there, Tyler Perry Studios is down there, but Charleston has its own unique set of incentives that might make certain productions want to film here, but the movie industry is currently warning that some new permitting rules that Charleston is thinking about could end up harming, the industry being here. And there have been lots of reports over the years that having these films, and whether it's reality TV or movies or a television show, they, even with the tax incentives, they bring a lot of business to South Carolina. The productions themselves obviously are hiring different local companies, whether it's, something like catering, say, or someone here who works, in background, whether it's, sound, or, they actually are, someone who has experience in this industry doing things, whether it's working a camera, a mic, the boom mic, whatever, lighting, whatever it may be. A lot of people live here and will take up work in these productions here. So that all obviously is good for our residents and our city and our state. And also, of course, it does attract some tourism. People will come here and be like, I want to see where, even as far back as The Notebook, I want to see where the movie The Notebook filmed on King Street, or, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all good things. So harming that industry would certainly not be something we would want. So what is this new rule? Basically, it would update this ordinance that has to do with permitting. Specifically, the revised rule would make it that any high-profile projects, and this would be things like Outer Banks, Righteous Gemstones, although they are no longer, they've already filmed their last season, but these high-profile projects, they sometimes will have to shut down local streets for filming purposes, and they have to get permits for that. But this new change would be specific about productions that affect these public access, points, whether it's pedestrian or vehicle rights of way on sidewalks and roads. Basically, they want filmmakers to have to apply for the permit 3 weeks in advance, and also appear before the city's special events committee, which is going to be a panel of representatives from several departments that meets twice a month. Right now, that request window is 15 days. So, basically 2 weeks. So they're adding essentially another week to this permitting process, and they would make it, of course, a little bit longer. 7 days might not seem like a lot, but people in the movie industry are saying it would hurt Charleston's ability to land new TV and movie work. That's according to Daniel Rogers. He's a senior project manager for the SC Film Commission, which is part of the State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. So I have a very limited knowledge of these productions based on what I've read, what I've heard from people who have worked on these shows and movies. I've a couple of times have been an extra. Sadly, did not make it into TV or the movie in either instance. So you kind of see how these things work. And although they might have a series, for instance, they might, or on a movie as well, they might have everything completely scripted out. They've scouted locations in advance a lot of the times, but something may change, or maybe they haven't finished the full series script as they're filming. Or sometimes places fall through that they thought they would be filming at, or something changes, and now they would have to wait. Instead of the 15 days, it'd be a full 3 weeks. And so that could be tough for a lot of productions. The longer you wait, the more they have to pay people. It could delay, from when they're supposed to complete these projects. It just pushes everything out and can cause headaches and problems. So I certainly understand the city side of things, where they want to make sure that they are giving residents, enough of a heads up to know, hey, your street's going to be closed for 2 days on this, a few weeks out from now, so people can plan appropriately and be aware that something's going to be filming, etc. But it would stink if this extra 7 days would, put a halt to some productions coming here. Because again, it does help the area. And of course, it's just fun to have these productions here as well. So we'll see what happens. I know this isn't the biggest story in the world, but certainly a unique and interesting story that's specific to Charleston because of, these incentives that we have that have brought so many productions here over the last, 10-ish years or so. So I'll certainly keep you updated. That'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins with LMC Soundsystem for producing this and every episode of Holy City Center Radio. And thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you are probably hearing right now. I hope you have an amazing weekend. I will talk to you soon. Until next week, good night and good luck.